Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Toyzilla Streams Book Club. Alright, y'all know what it is. This week we're reading The Looking Glass Wars, the book 2, Seeing Red by Frank Better. Now we're on chapter 15, that's what we're going to be starting with today. So if you haven't read up until now, you can find the previous chapters as well as the previous book on our YouTube channel. Just search Toyzilla and look for that bear bot symbol on the page. Y'all see it's like right up there. Right up there. Y'all can see it. Alright, I won't take too long getting started. And you know, while we're reading, I always encourage this. If you want to send in some artwork, if you're watching live on the Twitch, there's a link to the Discord right below the video. Send it in there to our Creative Zilla Corner, and I would love to showcase it sometime. Just, if you're feeling artsy while you're doing stuff, no big deal. Just let me know, okay? So without any further ado, let's get started. Chapter 15. For a manufactured species with questionable brain power, the glass eyes are fighting with surprising intelligence. Rather than face Wonderland forces in the open of wide avenues, squares, and parks, they use the cityscape to their advantage as defensive cover. They moved purposefully from building to building, sheltered position to sheltered position, battling card soldiers as they converged on Genevieve Square. The moment Alice had been located, the knowledge of it spread to every glass eye in the city. Or so it seemed to Bibwood Hart, who, with the walrus butler, was watching the invasion on the holographic viewing screens in the palace's briefing room. Wonderland's queen had been sighted. There followed the slightest hesitation in the glass eye's movement, and they all began to fight their way toward her. Oh, I can't watch, grieved the walrus. He tried to cover his eyes, but his flippers were too short to reach, and he wallowed around the room in even greater consternation. I'm not watching! I'm not watching! He turned his eyes anywhere but at the hollow screens. What's happening, Mr. Bibwood? No, don't tell me. Oh, why can't Queen Alice simply defeat those horrid things with the strength of her imagination? Please tell me that something good is. Clickety-clackety, clickety-clacket, clackety-clickety-clack. What are those? The walrus moaned. On the hollow screen, airing the happenings in Genevieve Square, a swarm of scorp spitters released by the glass eyes was scuttling toward Alice and the others. Never before had a Wonderlander seen those scorpion-like contraptions that could shoot bullets of deadly poison from their tails. Not even Bibwood, who assumed they were the latest in a long line of armaments invented by Red. But before a single scorp spitter curled its tail into a C to take aim at the queen, she imagined into existence a horde of disembodied boots with steel-plated soles which hovered momentarily in the air. Then, with a slight nod, she brought them down hard, stomping the scorp spitters flat, squishing their armored carapaces and making abstract art of their wiry guts. Oh! Now why can't Queen Alice do that to the glass eyes? The walrus butler cried. Because Alice cannot, even in her imagination, be in all places at once, Bibwood explained. Not with the intensity required to defeat a scattered enemy. Whether she produces a construct with enough reality to deceive the eyes, or she brings into existence an actual weapon or boot, imaginings require tremendous precision of thought and attention to detail. She could perhaps mount a successful defense in two locations simultaneously. She has the strength for that. But to imagine herself in every Wondertropolis neighborhood, battling all the invading packs of glass eyes simultaneously, would spread her gift too thin, and she would fail. Waddling laps around the room, alternately looking at the ceiling and the floor. Anywhere but at the hollow screens. The walrus butler heard none of this. Bibwood himself was hardly aware of what he'd said. In times of great stress, the pale scholar became more verbose than usual. At least the palace has been locked down, he observed, hoping to calm the walrus as well on the walls around them. The uncontrollable nightmare of battle raged in Wondertropolis streets. So we are safe. But even the walrus butler wasn't naive enough to believe this. They were safe only so long as Queen Alice's heart remained so. And right now, the animal cast a fretful eye at the nearest hollow screen. Things looked very bad indeed. They were surrounded. Directly ahead, cannonball spiders rocketed closer and closer while, on their left, a cannonade of orb generators eclipsed all but death. On their right, umpteen decks of razor cards cut through the distance toward them, and at their backs, spike-jack tumblers churned air in prelude to churning their flesh. The glass eyes were trying to overwhelm the queen, to catch her imagination off guard. I won't let it happen. Alice flicked out her fingers and a cannonball spider shot out from each of them, hatched in midair, and clashed with those shot by the enemy. Halfway between Wonderland's queen and the glass eyes, the mechanical spiders fought, dismembering one another as heartily as they would have dismembered any Wonderlander, while, thrusting her scepter skyward, Alice veered the incoming orb generators away from her and the others, imagining them streaming out high over Wondertropolis to land in the volcanic plains, home of the Jabberwocky. Can't let it happen. Dodge, the chessmen, and generals are standing with swords raised in the futile hope that they might deflect enough razor cards away from themselves to survive. The missiles were nearly close enough to shave the hair off their arms when Alice imagined them into neatly stacked decks, grounded and harmless. Excuse me. Immediately, she whirled around to face the spike-jack tumblers and sent them crashing into one another. Their spikes latched, holding the tumblers together to form a sort of worrisome jungle gym that hit the ground and skidded toward them, scraping and gouging the pavement. When I give the go-ahead, Alice said, the spikes of a jungle gym having come to a stop less than a wormy length from her face. What? The four general doppels cried at once. Run when I say so, Dodge frowned. We have to get out of the square, she said. Find a better vantage from which to fight. Wondronia's just up building way, the knight offered. We'll have the most number of options there. To Wondronia grounds then, Alice said, but first, you'd all better duck. They barely had time to drop to the pavement before she spun, her scepter held horizontally above her head with both hands, sparks of imagination spewing from its ends, shooting out in all directions, and pat-twink, pat-twink, laying low the surrounding glass eyes with heat-seeking accuracy. Now! The chessmen and generals took off, razor cards ripping from their 80-52s, cover fire issuing from their crystal shooters. Running behind them, Dodge kept close to Alice. You should get back to the palace, he urged. She quaffed. I understand. You were preoccupied and didn't notice that I just saved your life. The queendom needs you safe, he said. I need you safe. But I'm the only one who can defeat Red. For Isa's sake, Alice. Ahead of them, the chessmen and generals were battling their way into the elaborate complex of buildings that made up Wondronia grounds. You want me to return to the palace? Alice said. Then you have to come with me. The cat nearly killed you once, Dodge. If you insist on fighting him again, I won't let you do it alone. A few more strides and Wonderland's queen and the leader of her palace guard would have caught up with the chessmen. Just a few more steps then. A glass eye leaped out from behind a parked snail transport, blocked their way. Did you drop something? Dodge asked the assassin. 'Cause I think I see your... He unsheathed his sword and swung, decapitating the glass eye in one blow. Head over there. Hand in hand, Dodge and Alice ran, their feet a blur on the pavement. Explosions all around them, and then relative quiet. They were in Wondronia grounds, stood catching their breath of the chessmen and generals in the enormous promenade. Spooky, the rook said. It was. To see a palace, oh, to see a place dedicated to entertaining thousands of Wonderlanders at any given time empty of the usual families, strolling couples, retirees, and cliques of teenagers. All vacationers had been evacuated, all amusements abandoned. Unfinished meals sat on restaurant tables. The massaging cloaks and hairstyle helmets of the salons buzzed and clicked as if clients were still relaxing beneath them. Nothing but water coursed down the quartz water slides at the far end of the lobby, while closer to Alice, carnival rides such as the whip snake coaster and the spinning teacups were completely still. A dozen glass eyes burst through Wondronia's locked front doors. The knight, rook, four doubles, and four gangers surged forward to engage them. Dodge grabbed Alice's hand and pulled her into the closest shelter, the total MX unit, where, as Hatter Madigan, visitors could do battle against various enemies. By the time a trio of glass eyes chased after them, the total MX unit was in operation. Dodge, with Hatter's coat and weaponry superimposed on him, twisting and leaping in his fight against the glass eyes it manufactured, the real glass eyes momentarily confused by the sight of their false selves in teal. Simultaneously, they turned their heads, quick and jerky as turtle birds sensing prey, and sighted Alice Hart on their right flank. But she was on their left flank, too. There were 3 Alices in total. Only one of them could be Wonderland's real queen. The glass eyes would do away with them all. Ha! Dodge somersaulted over 2 of them, sword in one hand, hand of a timer in the other, and sent them to the nothingness of the afterlife. The remaining assassin, ducking and swiveling to avoid the crystal shot of its unreal brethren, was about to spray the place with its 80-52 when Dodge snatched the circular blade from his millinery backpack and threw it. The glass eye, not knowing that weapons produced by Total MX couldn't cause harm, moved to knock it away with the muzzle of the 80-52. The opening was all Dodge needed. He lurched forward, his sword extended out in front of him, and he thrust it into the assassin as far as its hilt. Dodge and Alice, the real Alice, the decoy she'd imagined gone now, found each other, safe amid the skyly and eager trigger pulls of the Total MX glass eyes. All right, Alice was breathless. No problem. They ran out to the lobby, where the White Knight and generals were surrounded by an ever-growing number of glass eyes, and the rook, where was there, on the spinning teacup ride, and a replica single-seater fighter craft shaped like a capital T, its guns parallel to the cockpit and located at the end of each wing. The rook was slashing at the assassins trying to climb up and put an end to him. With blade swinging, Dodge offered what support he could to the generals and knight, but Alice remained where she was, a pillar of calm amid the turmoil of battle as she employed the weapon of her imagination. The spinning teacups kicked into operation. The ride's fighter craft began to rotate, increasing in speed until the glass eyes, climbing up to challenge the rook blade to blade, were flung off like so many. Crack! The rook's fighter craft was free of the ride altogether, independent, flying under the distant ceiling of Wondronia's lobby. Yeah! The chessmen shouted, piloting in low over Dodge, the knight and generals, and firing his craft's guns into the glass eyes, annihilating half of them. A second flyby finished off the enemy, and with no small skill, he landed the fighter so that it blockaded Wondronia's exposed front door. If you imagine every entrance and exit blocked, we'll have time to defeat whatever glass eyes are still inside, the 4 general gangers said to Alice. No, I want as many of them as possible to come in. You want what? She didn't need Bibble to tell her that. Being unable to imagine herself at every skirmish simultaneously, she couldn't annihilate every glass eye in the city with a single strike of her imagination. She knew her limits all too well. I have to kill off as many as can be brought together in one place. What's the largest room here? She asked. Pelican Fields on the second floor. Take us there. Clack. Squirt spitters released by the glass eyes outside skidded through small gaps not blocked by the rook's fighter. Out the forked ends of their curled tails shot bullets of black liquid. Dodge, the chessmen, and generals tried to shield themselves with their weapons, but splat, spoink, splish! The liquid bullets imploded in midair, hung in their splattered state as against the windshield of a smell transport. Alice had, by the power of her imagination, cocooned herself and the others in a protective NRG shield, and the bullets had smacked against it. A good thing, too, because the few that had zipped past them hit the trunk of a guppy tree planted in the lobby, the poison causing its fish-faced leaves to audibly suffocate and its bark to fall off in colorless strips. Pelican Fields, Alice said again. They stayed close together, the better to remain within the protection of the NRG shield. The glass eyes were now entering Wandronia by the smell loads, having gotten the better of the rook's teacup, and they fired orb generators, crystal shot, and razor cards at the Allisons, while the scorp spitters let fly with round after round of their poisoned bullets. The bullets splattered against the NRG shield. The crystal shot and razor cards bounced off of it, visiting damage upon the lobbies, restaurants, and theaters and shops. Couldn't we at least run? The rook asked. No, said Alice. Pelican Fields, the largest indoor park in Wonderland, a masterpiece of landscape architecture that might have made nature jealous if it hadn't paid such beautiful homage to her with its arrangements of flower beds and shade trees, meandering paths, picturesque ponds, streams, and gently sloping vistas. At the Fields, the architect had managed to hide the ceiling behind the deep blue of an artificially produced atmosphere complete with clouds. With glass eyes and scope spitters trailing them, Alice led the others to a meadow bordered on one side by a hedge 3 Wonderlanders tall. Now we wait until there are more of them, she said. Keep me informed. Keep you? Mentally, she was already deep within herself. She had to focus, to concentrate on imagining a weapon that could explode with 10 times the force of an orb generator. She thought of the munitions factory in the flatlands between Outer Wildebeestia and the suburbs of Wondertropolis that she'd once toured. How many glass eyes are there? She asked. About 100, answered Dodge. Not enough. She remembered the production line where orb generators were assembled. She visualized the round, lightweight castings that might have been balls in a children's game if not for the arrangement of molecules and atoms they contain. How many now? Somewhere between 300 and 400 maybe. In her imagination's eye, she gazed into the hot center of an orb generator, the chambers that would open into one another on impact, allowing the nuclei they held to fuse in a chain reaction that gave the weapon its deadly force. And now, she was tired. The protective cocoon, the outsized orb generator, all this imagining required stamina, physical strength. I have no idea, Dodge said. A lot? She opened her eyes and saw nearly 1,000 of them. This had better work. She wouldn't be able to maintain the NRG shield for much longer. With the sound of a straining girder, the largest orb generator ever seen by Wonderlanders dropped from the artificial sky. Armageddon for the glass eyes in Pelican Fields. Boom! The force of the explosion knocked Alice and the others through the hedge that bordered the meadow and served a double function as decorative planting and a camouflage for the wall behind it. Alice and Dodge, the chessmen, and the generals went crashing through the wall and out to the street below. Alice lost her imaginative focus. The protective cocoon was dissolving as they hit the pavement, making her landing not as pain-free as it might have been. Stunned, they were still picking themselves up when, a whir of S-shaped blades spinning fast around a common axis coptered over their heads and sliced through an unnoticed glass eye that, from a fourth-story window of the Wandronia Hotel across the street, had been taking aim at them with an orb cannon. Whoa, whoa, whoa! The weapon boomeranged back to the gloved hand on its owner. Hatter Madigan. With a flick of the wrist, he returned it to its innocuous incarnation as a top hat and set it on his head. I'm ready to return to service, if my queen will allow it, he said, bowing to Alice. Hatter! She would have hugged him if she hadn't thought he'd be bothered by the display of affection. Pretty good timing, Dodge smiled. A little sooner and you would have been perfect. The 8 generals surrounded the milliner, each insisting on shaking his hand and offering a hearty welcome. Your return is a boon to the confidence of our military, said one general ganger. The queendom simply isn't the same without you, enthused another. Welcome, welcome, cried a pair of General Doppels. Bleep, 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 bleep. Incoming transmission. The rook pressed a button on the keypad strapped to his forearm. A projector-like light beamed out of the nozzle on his ammo belt. A screen formed in the air, visible to all, on which Bibwood appeared, still in the palace's briefing room. We're not Were we not in the midst of a crisis, Queen Alice, gushed the royal tutor, I would tell you that I am as proud as I've ever been of any of my students. Such a clever strategy you employed, such victorious ways, such wisdom in so young and inexperienced a sovereign. Bibwit, the queen said. Quite right, yes. I shall embarrass you with praise some other time. There are still troops of glass eyes in Wondertropolis, but few enough now to be handled by our card soldiers and chessmen. You must return to the relative safety of the palace so that we can discuss what's to be done about the woman who is to remain nameless, by whom, I think you know, I mean your Aunt Red. Bibwit, have you seen Humbug Molly? It's unlike her not to throw herself into a fight where she can show off her skills. It is not at all like her, the tutor agreed, but I haven't seen the girl. While Hatter tried to act as if Molly's whereabouts didn't mean everything to him, Alice quickly scanned the palace with her imagination. She didn't glimpse her bodyguard anywhere. Probably still sulking because I sent her off. She'll have to learn not to take things so personally. Expect us momentarily, Bibwit, she said. The tutor's ears dipped in acknowledgement. The screen faded. The transmission ended. My queen, said the knight, with your permission, as long as a single one of my chessmen risks death against glass eyes, so must I. I should stay and fight, agreed the rook. One glance at Dodge and Alice could tell that he wanted to stay and fight too. Till every living vestige of the cat is rent from the world for all time. It was ironic that to keep him from further risking his life and sanity for revenge, she had to tempt him with a greater opportunity to accomplish its end. Dodge, she said, the glass eyes are only foot soldiers, as you said yourself. Red and the cat won't be so easily coaxed into the open. Come with me. Together we'll devise a plan to flush them out of wherever they are. Return to the palace with me and we can confront them together. She held out her hand. The Wonderlanders were silent, and Dodge's jaw looked diamond hard as he stared off into the distance. But at last he turned to the woman who was both Wonderland's queen and his love. He would follow her. All right, y'all, that's the end of chapter 15, as well as the end of part 1 of book 2. Well, y'all got to tell me what y'all thought of that. I might have got a little ahead of myself while reading that fast. Oh, my goodness, but sometimes, the words just capture you in the moment, and you just got to say them, you know what I mean? Whew. All right, if y'all got any artwork to turn in, go to our Discord and put it inside of Creativezilla's Corner. Well, if not, just continue to read the book along with me. I quite enjoy it. So, that's the end of tonight's stream for Book Club. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, y'all. It has been a pleasure. We are ending soon. Toyzilla is